All right, what's up, everybody? Uh, Big Tasty here with a really big NBA slate today that we're going to cover. Man, there are just some days like yesterday where I didn't feel like I had a good feel for any of the games, and it looked like a live betting kind of day, had another break even one. Then there are other days like today where it feels like there's a lot of good spots, and only time will tell if that is true or not. But I feel like this is a good slate, and there's a lot of games. So let's jump right into it. As always, would love to have any comments in the chat. Give the video a like, even a retweet if you're on Twitter. Subscribe if you're on YouTube. I really appreciate all that stuff, and helps make all the work that goes into this worth it. So let's dive in. The first game we've got today is the Detroit Pistons and the Charlotte Hornets. Detroit's been playing well lately, honestly. I mean, obviously, they just had the big win against Milwaukee, and so that's going to, be most recent in memory. But overall, they've been playing a little bit better. This game right now, too, forgot I was going to give this out at the beginning. The Charlotte's minus 10.5 right now, and the total's at 227.5 is where things stand. Stewart should still be out for this game, but Trey Lyles came back, and I actually really like Trey Lyles playing center for Detroit. He gives them the ability to stretch the floor. He's another guy who can create offense. And they've struggled so many times with offense this year that I think anything that they can get that helps them on that front is going to be a real benefit to them. Charlotte, on the other hand, comes in just losing a close game. They've played 8 of their last 10 games away from home, and they're finally going to be back at home here, and that does help them a little bit. Their offensive rating at home is about 2 points better, and their defensive rating is about 2 points better. So this is a net win of about 4 points for them, I would say, on offensive and defensive rating. When you look at Detroit and when they've really been successful, I mean, honestly, this is a team that hasn't been successful very much, so there's not going to be a ton to look at. But when they hit 90% combined between field goal percentage and three-point percentage, that's when they're truly successful, winning and even winning well. But those are definitely outliers. They did this in their last game. They hit 90.3% between field goal percentage and three-point percentage against Milwaukee. They've only done it twice in December, no other times in January. And they actually lost both of those games too. But they lost them by 3, and they scored 112 and 116, which is well above where they had been scoring for the most part, often under 100 points. And so even if they don't win, I think it's that 90% combined shooting that gives them the chance to be in games, at least keep it close, certainly cover a spread like this that's 10.5 that's so big. One of the things that I was looking at with Charlotte is that their free throw shooting has been really atrocious. In the last 3 games, they've shot 59.4, 57.1, and 53.8. They're not a great free throw shooting team overall. 73.9 is their average on the season, but this is, those numbers are way below, like 20 points below the average even. So I would expect that to come back up some, and that's going to help their scoring a little bit at least. Looking at the total here, I mean, anytime you have a Charlotte game, I think the easy thing is right away to think, oh man, we should definitely look at the over. But if you break it down into the 2 team totals, Charlotte's is at 119, and they've actually only gone over that in 2 out of their last 5 games and 3 out of the last 10. Detroit's only allowed 119 or more in 1 of the last 5 and 2 of the last 10. So, the percentages are not high for them getting over that number. Detroit, on the other hand, their team totals at 109. They've gone over that 2 out of the last 5, but only 3 out of the last 10. And Charlotte, while their defense certainly hasn't been great, they've only allowed that many points in 2 of their last 5. They have allowed it in 7 of their last 10, so it had been 5 straight before these most recent 5. So I think I would just say that makes me a little bit wary on the over here. You do always look for Charlotte to be able to score a lot of points, and Detroit has definitely been scoring better, but I think that it's a little bit iffy. When we look at the trends here, there's actually positive against the spread trends for both sides, and there's stronger trends toward the under. In terms of this matchup specifically, Detroit's 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 at Charlotte and 2-7 in their last 9 against Charlotte overall. The under is 7-0-1 in the last 8 between these 2 teams in Charlotte, and 10-1-1 in the last 12. So that's, again, when I said that I feel a little bit iffy about this game getting over the total. I mean, I'm always hesitant to bet an under for Charlotte. But if I was going to, I think that is the way that I would lean at this point. And I haven't put that bet in or anything, so I'm not sure if I would go there. And this spread just feels too wide to me in a game that I don't think will be, as massively high scoring with a Detroit team that's been scoring a little better. I think 10.5 is a lot. And so if I was going to look to bet a side in this game, I think I would kind of try to see how the game flow is going and see what I wanted to do live more than taking something ahead of time. Next game up, this is one I really like, is Houston against Washington. Washington is -7, and the total's up to 229 now. If you follow me on Twitter, you saw that I took this, it was either last night or early this morning at 222, and man, it has gotten steamed up like crazy. But let's jump in and see if there's still some value to be had here. So Houston, if you've been following the NBA at all, you know that they've been absolutely terrible, not only on the court, but they've had lots of off the court drama too, something to throw in for a team that's already bad. Their offensive rating has been 110 or better in 5 of their last 6, so they have been playing decent on offense again lately. But their defensive rating has been 120 or worse in 8 straight games. So while it is kind of a big deal that Christian Wood and Kevin Porter sat out last game and that it's possible they'll be back, I don't know about Porter's status for sure, but Wood should be back here. That terrible defense has been going on for a long time, and it's continuing now. So I don't see them pulling the defense together just because those guys come back. Washington, on the other hand, they've been playing relatively well lately. Their offensive rating has been 116 or better in 5 of their last 6. Now, their defensive rating has been 117 or worse in 5 of the last 6 as well. So not necessarily playing great defense. It's interesting when you think about Washington at the beginning of the year. This is a team I was on quite a bit because they were playing well. But what they did well early on in the year is they played really good defense. So they'd have these low scoring games, and they usually ended up being able to pull them out or even cover the spread in those. But lately here, they're scoring a ton, and that's how they're playing well. A lot of this, I think, has to do with the fact that they're better with Bradley Beal playing point guard for them. And it's not so much that Spencer Dinwiddie's bad as that they needed to find another way to use Bradley Beal because it wasn't working with what they were doing before. And this has really been working well. He's distributing the ball well. He's being more aggressive. His shot seems to be falling a little bit better. Obviously getting Kuzma involved a ton. And so I not only like where the Wizards are for this game, but I kind of like their trajectory overall right now and where they're headed as a team. Houston's defense, as I said, is slightly better with Porter and Wood in, but again, it's just been so bad across the board that I don't think we have to fear their defense, even with those guys playing. In terms of trends, Houston is 0-4 in their last 4 at Washington against the spread, and the over is 5-1-1 in the last 7 between these two teams and 4-0-1 in the last 5 at Washington. So really strong trends toward the over here, and definitely some strength of trends toward Washington as well. So this one I did, like I said, I did have that over bet. I did also bet Washington for 1 unit at -6. This is actually one that I marked down to watch live because I think that if Houston does come out and play strong at the beginning, this is a spot I might consider adding more on the Washington spread if that spread drops a little bit, because I think it's a really good spot for Washington overall. You could also consider Washington's team total here. I definitely don't hate that. If one of these two teams is going to come out and lay a total egg, I think it's more likely to be Houston. But I just decided, looking at all the numbers, to go with the overall number there. Ooh, bumping my camera. All right. Next game up, we've got the 76ers and the Magic. And the 76ers are another team that have been on a good little roll here. They're on a 4-game winning streak, and in those 4 games, they've scored 133, 110, 114, and 117. For a lot of the season, the biggest problem with Philadelphia is that they can't score. They've done a pretty good job on defense, but can't generate any points. Well, in the last 4 games here, that hasn't so much been the case. They are going to be without Maxey, Milton, and Thibault tonight. Thibault affecting them more on defense than he would on offense. On the other side, Cole Anthony could be back here for the Magic, and Mo Wagner's still going to be out. The big one to watch here is that I saw Wendell Carter Jr. is dealing with an illness that's not COVID-related. So if he's out, that definitely makes a difference because he's been a really important piece for them. Probably, with Cole Anthony, Franz Wagner, and then he's probably third right in that mix in terms of most important pieces for them. Orlando has been better at home offensively lately. So this is another one where for a long time we were riding this trend of Orlando not being able to score 100 points at home because they couldn't. But recently they've been doing a lot better. So their offensive rating for the season at home is 101.8. But in the last 5 games at home, it's 111.4. So a 10-point jump in offensive rating at home in their last 5 games over their season average. It's a great improvement. However, on the defensive side of the ball, their defensive rating is 115.3 at home on the season, and it's jumped up to 124.3 in their last 5 at home. So just playing higher scoring games overall, and you kind of see that with teams sometimes where they fix something that's wrong, like they get their offense going, but then it messes with their defense as well. And it seems like that's a little bit of what's happening with Orlando. Big thing for Philly is their 3-point percentage. It's pretty huge. When they just shoot 33% or better, they're 9-0 in December and January, and they average 113.2 points per game. When they're under 33%, they're 0-6. Well, Orlando allows teams to shoot 38.3 at home, so clearing that 33 mark by quite a bit. And Orlando has allowed 35% or worse in 4 out of 5 and 8 out of 10. And when they allow that, they're giving up 114.4 points per game. So I think this looks for like a pretty good spot for Philadelphia to be able to score points. Their team total, at least last I looked, was 109.5. And that's something I haven't bet, but again, was kind of looking into. I don't hate that. But the reason that I didn't take it is that I do think that Orlando could score some points here as well. Philadelphia is another team where they've continued to play pretty decent defense, but they are allowing more points than they were now as they've been scoring more. And so I think both these teams could score more than they have in the past. This game's Philadelphia -9, and the total's at 213. I bet this over when it was a little bit lower, I think, but I don't hate 213 still. I don't think that's a terrible number on where these two teams are at right now. In terms of any trends, Philadelphia is 1-4 in their last 5 against the spread at Orlando, and the under is 4-1 in the last 5 at Orlando. So that one trend to the under goes a little against where I'm at, but the data was bigger to me there, and that's why I went that way. I think if I was picking a side, I might pick Orlando to hang in there and cover a 9-point spread. So this is another one I'm watching live. I'm actually hoping Philadelphia gets out to a lead and I can get Orlando closer to 18 or 20 points. So we'll see how that goes. Next game up is Brooklyn Nets and the Indiana Pacers. Brooklyn's -8.5 now. I think it started out significantly lower than that, so that's gotten steamed. And then 225.5 is the total. So obviously the big news here is that Kyrie Irving is supposed to be playing. And man, somebody coming in after not playing for so long, I mean, he's going to make an impact over time, but it's hard to cap at all what that's going to look like in this first game. If it's going to throw their rhythm off, or if he's been practicing and he's so ready that he's just going to go off in his first game. They did get the chance to play together last year, so they do know what that chemistry should look like a little bit. And so not totally sure what to expect from Kyrie or the Nets today. But on the Indiana side, I think we can know a little bit more what to expect. They still are likely to have LeVert, Duarte, Brogdon, and Lamb all out. Basically no guards, just backup guards. And they're on the second half of a back-to-back, which they've actually done okay. They've been about 500 on the second half of back-to-backs. But it's a little different today because their starters played such massive minutes again in that game against the Knicks yesterday. By the way, the Knicks, a terrible team, and Indiana ended up losing to them yesterday. And Indiana's just been super consistent in their scoring over the last 5. So they only scored 94 yesterday, so they had a downtick against the Knicks. But before that, it was 104, 106, 108, 105. So they're in that like mid 100s range, you know. I think that or even a little bit lower. Brooklyn has been giving up a decent amount of points, but this Indiana team's just in a bad spot right now, I think. Overall, I feel like this is a spot where Brooklyn should absolutely dominate. This actually feels like a bigger letdown spot for Indiana to me here, where Brooklyn comes in and beats them by 12 to 15 points. But I'm not sure how that first half is going to look. Maybe Indiana comes out with some effort. Maybe it's hard getting Kyrie back in the mix. And so this is one I'm going to actually be watching live, trying to get in sometime during the first half on Brooklyn's spread. In terms of trends, Brooklyn is 4-1 in their last 5 versus Indiana, and 4-0, against the spread, and 4-0 against the spread in the last 4 at Indiana. So that's just another thing that says to me that this is a pretty good spot for Brooklyn, and I like them in this game quite a bit. Wish I got in on that spread when it was 6.5 or whatever. I probably would have taken that. Next game up is the Warriors and the Mavericks. I don't know why, but I hate the Mavericks, man. Anyway, not the time to talk about that, but probably because they don't freaking score and Luka. I don't know. Anyway, this is Golden State -5.5, and the total's 215. And my dislike for the Mavericks aside, if we just try to look at this game for what it is, I think Porzingis is still going to be out, though. When you look up this injury news early, a lot of times it changes. So I would keep an eye on that because that does make a difference for Dallas, especially on offense. They are much more offensively challenged, even with Luka back when Porzingis isn't in. So if he plays, that gives them a bump on offense and actually does not help them on defense. Golden State. So another trend, we're seeing some of these trends, I think, kind of turn some corners from what they were up to this point in the season. So another one is that Golden State didn't play great away from home. They were, amazing at home, but then just kind of decent on the road. It's a very small sample size, but in their last two games, their offensive rating, or last two games away, their offensive rating has been 125.8, where on the season it was 111.7. And then their defensive rating has been 117.2, and on the season it was 107.2. So obviously they've played two higher scoring games in their last two away, but I think they're getting the chemistry down and really getting things working offensively. Dallas is a good defensive team. I mean, in their last five, they've given up 89, 86, 96, 95, and then 117, but four in a row under 100. Now, they haven't played really anybody. They played a depleted Denver team, Oklahoma City, and Sacramento twice. So Golden State's offense is nothing like those other three teams that I just mentioned. But it does have to be noted that Dallas plays pretty good defense and holds teams to pretty low point totals. A big number to look at here is Golden State's three-point percentage. So Dallas allows 34% at home, though they've only allowed over 34 in 4 of their last 10. But when Golden State hits 34% or better from three-point range, they're 9-0 in December and January. And they're only 2-4 when they're under that number. So that's kind of a big number. And I think as Golden State's getting it going and getting pieces back here, I think they can hit that. And while I don't think they run away and post, 120 plus here, I think they can put up a good number, a 110 to 115. And if they can do that, I think Dallas is just challenged offensively. And so I think Golden State should be able to cover that spread if they can get to that number. Looking at the trends, there's a slight lean toward Golden State against the spread. Dallas is 0-5 against the spread versus teams with a winning road record. And then the one that goes the other way is Golden State is actually 2-8 against the spread in the last 10 versus Dallas specifically. And the over is 10-2 in the last 12 between these two teams. So some of the trends actually pushing back a little bit on some of what I like based on the numbers. This is another one that I marked down to watch live. I do like Golden State here. I actually think that they should win by about 8 or 10 points. But if I could get this number down more in that 2.5 to 3 range, I would definitely prefer that. So I'll probably be watching it live. Excuse me. Next game here is the Spurs and the Celtics. The Celtics are -8, and the total's 224 in this game. Now, San Antonio has been playing without DeJounte Murray, and he's supposed to be back. That is definitely a key to any analysis I'm going to give here. Everything that I'm sharing is based on me assuming that he is going to be back and playing tonight, which I think is absolutely huge for the Spurs. I think some of their pieces like White and Vassell and even Pirtle and some of them, they're decent as secondary players who can play off Murray, but I think they struggle when they're put into that first chair. So if he comes back, I think that helps them a ton. And that really plays out when you look back at how the Spurs were playing when Murray was in. So the last 5 games when Murray played, the Spurs scored 138, 116, 114, 128, and 115. Now, they were giving up a lot of points too, over 120 in 3 out of those 5, and then 110 and 92 in the others. But the offense just looked totally different, and they played a totally different style of game. and we're just able to score a ton more. And so I think with Murray coming back, sometimes the first game back, I heard another guy talking about this on a podcast too. The first game back can definitely be a struggle, and that could for sure be true for Murray here. But I think he does so many things for them that even if he's not shooting the ball great, he can still make a massive impact on the game just by pushing pace, driving the lane, making good plays in terms of assists, helping out on defense. There's a lot of things he does that don't require him to just be scoring. On the other side with Boston, they've just been so much more inconsistent. I mean, in their last 5, their high is 123, but their low is 82. I mean, I just feel like this is a team that it's so hard to know what to expect or to believe that what's going to happen. They are getting Tatum back here. And again, this is another one of those where obviously they're a better team in the long run with Tatum. But if we're going to look just specifically at the numbers, they actually have a better offensive rating and defensive rating with Tatum out than they do with him in. So I don't think him coming back automatically means that this game Boston's going to go off and everything's going to be right and all of a sudden they're going to be a good team. If anything, I would say Jaylen Brown has been kind of cooking with Tatum out, and now he's got to share the ball again, go back to sort of that 1B kind of role. And I think that could potentially mess with his rhythm. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't, but I just don't think that this is an automatic positive spot for Boston because Tatum is coming back. When you look at trends in this game, really strong trends for San Antonio against the spread, actually, and then a little bit of support for Boston against the spread as well. The over's gone 4-1 in the last 5 between these teams in Boston, and that's a spot that I'm kind of interested in because I do see San Antonio scoring more points here, but potentially giving more up as well. The thing that's keeping me off of that is real uncertainty about what Boston's going to look like on offense. So a couple things here. One is I do like San Antonio +8. I think that's a big number in this spot. And then I really don't mind San Antonio's team total over 108.5 now. And that's actually where I got it when I bet it. But when I first looked, it was 107.5. And with Murray playing, they had gone over 107.5 in 9 straight games and 12 out of 13. So I just think statistically, there's an incredibly high percentage chance that the Spurs score 108, if not, 109 plus. So I think those are some really good spots in this game. And even though the Spurs are on a back-to-back, they've been fine. They're 3-3 against the spread on back-to-backs. With Murray coming back, I think it's a good spot for them. All right, we're going to keep it moving because we do have a lot of games to cover today. The next one up is the Timberwolves and the Thunder. Minnesota's -8.5 in this game, and the total is 216. This is one where I'm going to spend a little bit less time. When we have a slate this big, there are games that I start to look into, and then I'm like, I don't know that this is really worth the time because of some of the factors that we can't account for here. I actually do really like what's going on with Minnesota when Russell and Towns are in, but these two guys haven't played since before Christmas. I think it was December 21st. And so while they both might be back tonight, I think this is going to be a spot where there is some rust and it takes some time for them to get back into the groove. And Oklahoma City's just been playing people pretty steady lately. I mean, they don't always keep it close. They lost by 9, they lost by 18, they lost by 6. But so, 2 of those 3 that they lost in their last 5 were within this spread, and they've won 2 outright. So this isn't a team that's struggling the way they have the whole year. Also, Oklahoma City is 7-2 against the spread on 2 days of rest, which they have right now. And so I just don't know that this is a spot to really go in hard on either of these teams because I think Minnesota, as my hat would indicate, is definitely the better team here. And I would like them to win the game even. But with those 2 guys coming back, I don't know that I want to jump in full on. Looking at the trends, there are strong against the spread trends for Oklahoma City and Minnesota, actually. Oklahoma City is 4-1-1 against the spread in their last 6 against Minnesota. The over is also 10-4 in the last 14. So those are some things just to think about. If this is a game you like, this is one I'm more going to be skipping over and probably won't even – well, I'll check in on it live because I like the Timberwolves. But from a betting perspective, probably staying away on this one. Next one up is the Raptors and the Bucks, and I think this should be a fun one. Right now, Milwaukee is -7.5, and the total is 225.5. For Milwaukee, it looks like Allen Connaughton and DiVincenzo will all be out here, while Toronto's got pretty much everyone back. And Toronto, in their last 4 games since they've started to get everyone back together, they're really turning it on offensively. They've scored 129, 120, 116, and 109. Man, this was a team that we couldn't count on to score 90 points, let alone 110. But I do think as this roster comes together, I think they can do some pretty awesome things with Barnes and Siakam. They just have so many versatile pieces who have some decent size and can play in a lot of different ways that I think this is a team that's going to be trending up here in the next month or so. Well, and even they've started to trend up already, right? It's not like I'm the first one to call that out, but I'm just saying I think that's going to continue. Milwaukee on the other side, man, they keep getting guys back and then losing guys again. DiVincenzo only played for a few games, and I think it actually hurts them that he's out. He only played 3 games with them, and so it's hard to take too much away from that. But their offense looked a lot better with him in the game. Having Grayson Allen and Pat Connaughton out as well, they're down to Wes Matthews in terms of like a 3-point shooting guard, 3-point shooting wing to rely on. And Wes Matthews has had some really good games, but he's super inconsistent, and I would not want to have to count on him. And so I think that puts Milwaukee back in the spot. I mean, I think we love Milwaukee because Giannis is there, and they have Middleton too, and Portis has been playing well, and even Cousins has come in and contributed. And obviously they have a track record of being really great. But I feel like when you look back at this season, when they're missing pieces, they struggle. I feel like they need their whole team there to really be what they can be. And in this one specifically, Toronto can match up with them in terms of size. And I think in terms of athleticism too, maybe no one matches up with Giannis 100% on athleticism, but they have people who can hang in there. And I think they are more athletic than Milwaukee overall in terms of the whole roster. One of the things that I think we're going to see trend up for Toronto is their rebounds. So they had only had 50 or more rebounds one time the whole season, but now they've had over 50 in 2 of their last 3, 52 and 54 rebounds. That 54 was their high of the whole year. If they can keep doing that, man, with that roster, they're going to get a lot of fast break opportunities. They're going to get a lot of second chance points, and they're going to limit the other team. When we look at the trends here, they're really strong against the spread trends for Toronto. And then okay trends against the spread for Milwaukee. Very strong trends for the over if you look at the Toronto side, and then just kind of maybe slightly toward the over when you look at Milwaukee. These 2 teams specifically against each other, Toronto is 4-1 against the spread in the last 5 at Milwaukee. And then this is the one that goes against the data that I've been sharing. The under is 8-1 in the last 9 between these 2 teams. But this is one where for me, I'm going to let the data override the trends on that over. I already bet the over. I think this is a game where I think there's a lot of points. And honestly, if any team comes up short, I think it's going to be Milwaukee. This is a game where I'm thinking about betting Toronto money line even. I actually would love to see Milwaukee get out to a 5 or 7 point lead where I could get a money line bet in at plus 600 or 700. That would be sweet because I think Toronto definitely has a chance to win this game. And so I think I already took a bet on Toronto. I got either plus 8 or plus 7.5. I'll have to double check that. Maybe I decided to hold off and see what I got live. But I think it's a good spot for Toronto. And then a pretty good spot for the over as well. All right, we got 3 games left. And hey, we're not even to half an hour yet. So not doing too bad on this big slate. Next one up is the Utah Jazz and Denver Nuggets. Nuggets hoodie also, since I used to be from Denver. Got to keep repping them, but that doesn't mean I'm going to rep them on my betting card. So Utah's -3, and the total here is 223.5. Utah's been playing well overall. I mean, this is a team that you kind of expect to roll. Like in the regular season, they normally do that. And it hasn't been quite as dominant as I would expect, but they've been getting the job done. They've scored 115, 116, 120, 120. They've been between 110 and 120 in all 5 of their most recent 5 games. So they're scoring the ball pretty well. And then they've given up most of the time under 110. They had one game where they gave up 123. Denver, on the other hand, super inconsistent, which I think is what you'd expect from a team that's always missing so many of its wings, that relies on Nikola Jokic to basically have a massive triple-double every night just to keep them in games. This team has so little margin for error that I find them hard to count on most of the time, to be honest. The total in this game, 223.5 now, was 222.5 when I was doing my research. Utah has gone over that total in 3 of their last 5. Denver, only 1 of their last 5. Like, it's just not something that they're hitting consistently. The last 3 totals between these two teams specifically, though, were 232, 247, and 245. So this is a spot where I really was looking at the total for a while, wanting to be able to take a side, but I just see things pushing both ways. And that makes it hard for me to want to jump in on either side of this total, really. A big number for Denver is their 3-point percentage. And this isn't going to sound amazing, but when they hit 31% or better, they're 6-4. They're only 2-3 though when they're under that mark. That's in December and January. But here's the big difference: is when they're over that number, they're averaging 113.5 points a game. When they're under that number, they're averaging 99 points a game. And Utah allows 31% away from home. So again, this is another thing that says to me, we're right on that line of, is this potentially a good game for Denver or a bad game? The last thing we have to throw in here is that a lot of Utah's key pieces are game time decisions. And if they decide to hold everybody out, it would just be for rest, basically, I think. If they did that, it might make me a little bit more interested in the over, just because you wouldn't have Gobert inside. And probably not O'Neal on defense and stuff like that. So, and you'd still have Clarkson, who would be able to score well for Utah. So I might be a little more interested in the over. I think I would still not be interested in either side of the spread here. In terms of trends, not much on the spread. A little bit of a negative against the spread trend for Denver. Utah's 3-1-1 in the last 5 against Denver, but 3-10-1 in the last 14 at Denver. So just hard to find any edges in this game, I think. If you have things you like, man, I'd love to hear that, but not one where I was able to come away with a lot. Next game up, however, I do have more. So I think I may already have the most units of this NBA season on this game of any that I've done, and I'm thinking about adding. So let's jump into the Heat and the Trailblazers. Butler, Dedmon, and Robinson out for the Heat. We've known that. That's not news. Lillard, McCollum out for the Blazers. Also, I saw that Nance is doubtful. So again, nothing surprising, kind of what we already knew. I'm really looking at very recent history here for these teams because of all those people that are out. Miami in their last 5 games is averaging 110.6 points a game. But that that 5th game that I included in there was 93-83 and was a little while back now. If you just take their last 4, they're averaging 115 points a game. Like, they're just flat scoring the ball. That includes a game where they scored 108 against the Warriors recently, who are a really solid defense. Their other games were 113, 120, and 119. They're going up against a team in Portland that, if we look at just their last 3 games since all these roster issues, is absolutely hemorrhaging. They're allowing 134 points a game over their last 3 games. Now, they are scoring 119.7, so they've been doing pretty well on offense. And Miami's been allowing 113 over their last 4, so they also have been giving up a decent amount of points on defense. Miami's offensive rating in their last 4 games, I mean, this was amazing to me. So 106 against Golden State, but then 116.9, 120.3, 127.8. Just absolutely crushing it. Portland, on the other side, has a defensive rating 123 or worse in 5 straight games. So not just in the last 3, but the last 5. They've been absolutely getting decimated on defense. My only real concern here for Miami in terms of offense, or in this game in general, is Nurkic probably. I mean, he's playing solid, but Yurtseven has been good for the Heat, and I just think they can mitigate Nurkic enough. He's just not a big enough star where he just goes in and absolutely takes over the game much of the time. The Heat also get Strus back, which gives them more shooting as well. In terms of looking at the trends here, there are absolutely horrific against the spread trends for Portland. It looks really bad. The only good thing for them is that they're at home. The only thing that would make it worse is if they were away. There are very strong over trends for Miami, like some of the strongest I've seen in terms of trends this year, and a little bit of under trends for Portland. In terms of these two against each other, Portland is 5-2 against the spread in the last 7 in Portland. And the under is 5-2 in the last 7 at Portland, but the over is 5-2 in the last 7 overall. So, you could kind of take either way. So here's where I'm at with this. I think it's important, at least for me, I got to try to ride these edges that we get when they come. The reality is at some point, Portland's going to figure some stuff out on defense, and they're not going to give up 130 points a game anymore. But they're playing a team tonight that has been playing really well on offense, despite not great shooting from Tyler Hero. And I think that trend continues tonight of them giving up a lot of points. And so I've got to jump in on that while I can. So I got in on this over at 222. I know it's up to like 229 or no, I'm sorry. I'm way off on that. I think I was in at 212 and it's 214. See, like me even saying that, I think this game goes way over 214 and a half. And I might look like an absolute fool tomorrow trying to reason why I thought this total would be so high. But I think this game goes over 220 a lot of the time with the way these two teams have been playing. So I did that, and then I also got in on Miami's team total. I don't remember for sure what I got that at. I think it was 209 and a half. Again, a team that's been scoring 115 a game against a team that's been giving up 134 a game. I mean, if they could just be average, they're going to get 110. So I just think these are smashable spots, and if I didn't like bankroll management, I would be absolutely hammering the daylights out of that Miami team total in particular. Because I do like bankroll management, and I know that even when I think I'm really right, I can still be wrong. I will probably keep it to about the number of units I have, which is 2 on the over for the game and 2 on the over for Miami's team total. But if you can't tell, I like that spot. All right, last game up is the Hawks and the Kings. This is one that I wasn't going to be very interested in, but then just looking at a few of the numbers got me a little more interested. Right now, Atlanta's -1, and the total is 231. We still have a lot of people out for Atlanta: Bogdanovich, Collins, Jang, Hunter, and then Young and Reddish are actually listed as game time decisions. That would change some things if they're out. I think they'll probably play. It just feels like these guys who carry that game time decision tag on every game. So Sacramento is on a back-to-back, but they've been okay on back-to-backs. I don't think it's a big deal. Here's not a ton of numbers here, but I think important ones. Atlanta is absolute trash on defense right now. Their defensive rating in their last 4 games has been 138.9, 126.7, 130, and 134.1. That has to be one of the worst runs for any team in the NBA this season. That is absolutely atrocious. Sacramento, on the other hand, has shown a little bit of life on offense in these last couple games. 116.7 and 118.9 offensive rating in their last 2. Atlanta has been decent on offense as well. They've been at 117 or better in offensive rating in 4 straight games. And Sacramento has allowed an offensive rating of 111 or worse in 5 of their 6 games. So all of those numbers just to say, Atlanta is absolutely atrocious on defense right now, rivaling Portland. Sacramento, we know, is never very good on defense. And Atlanta and Sacramento have both been looking pretty good on offense in recent form here. I don't think either of them are too interested in playing defense. Also, the over is 8-3, the last 11 between these two teams in Sacramento. Another trend that I found interesting is that Atlanta's 0-5 against the spread in their last 5 in Sacramento. So I think I did end up putting 1 unit on the Sacramento money line at +105 here. And I do like the over. 231 is just so big. Now, the way that these two teams have been playing defense, I think that that's not a bad number still. The thing I get scared away by is either of them having a really bad shooting night and only putting up like 105 points. So I'm still thinking about that. I don't know if I'll go in on that over. I think for sure I'll watch it live. And if I can get it down closer to 220 rather than 230, I would probably jump in on that one as well. All right. 40 minutes. It's a big slate. Appreciate you hanging in there with me. Again, I absolutely love all of you who are tweeting at me, sending questions, interacting on Twitter. That's what's fun for me. So please keep that coming. I appreciate it. Appreciate any likes, retweets, whatever. And hopefully we can have a really solid day today and take a big jump up for this week. So have a good one, and I'll see you on Twitter.